You know, when you look out at the ocean, it's easy to forget what's moving around down there. We're talking about phantoms of the deep, these incredible cities of steel that navigate in total darkness and silence. So, how on earth do they do it? How do these machines conquer one of the most hostile environments on our planet? Well, today we're going to pull back a curtain and uncover the secrets of the submarine. I mean, think about it for a second. How does a massive, heavy steel vessel literally fly through the water? It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, right? Sinking and rising whenever it wants. But this isn't fiction. This is a fascinating puzzle of physics and engineering, and today, we're going to solve it together.
Okay, so where do we even start? Well, the first, and you could argue the biggest challenge for any submarine is just surviving. Because the deeper you go, the more the ocean itself is actively trying to crush you.
Just try to imagine the weight of all that water. A column stretching all the way from the submarine to the surface, and it's pressing in on every single square inch of the hull. That's water pressure. It's this immense, relentless force, and it's the very first giant hurdle that engineers had to figure out how to beat. And to give you a sense of what we're dealing with, a typical military submarine operates at about 600 meters down. That's what, like the length of 6 football fields straight down. At that depth, the pressure is more than 60 times what we feel just standing here at the surface. If you took a car down there, it wouldn't just get crushed, it would be instantly imploded. So what's so special about a submarine? The solution is just this brilliant piece of engineering, a hull within a hull design. So you have the outer hull, that's the light hull, and its job is all about hydrodynamics, right? Making the sub slice through the water. But the inner hull, that's the pressure hull, and it's the real fortress. It's a super thick, perfectly round tube made of high tensile steel. And it's built to spread that incredible pressure out evenly. It's what creates that safe little bubble for the crew inside. All right, so surviving the pressure is one thing, but really mastering it, that's a whole other ballgame. A submarine can't just be a reinforced tin can. It has to be able to control its depth with absolute precision. So how does it sink and swim on command? This is what we call the art of the dive. And it really all boils down to one fundamental law of physics: buoyancy. You can think of it as a constant battle between the weight of the sub pushing down and the force of the water pushing up. The submarine's big trick is that it can change its own weight whenever it wants. So how does it do that? Well, the secret is in something called ballast tanks. Think of them kind of like the submarine's lungs. To dive, the crew opens up vents, and bam, seawater floods in, replacing the air and adding a ton of weight to the sub. This is what's called negative buoyancy, and it's literally what pulls the submarine down under the waves. And to come back up, you just do the opposite. Powerful compressors blast that water out with air, making the sub light enough to float right back to the surface. But here's the thing. Using ballast tanks is great for the big moves, diving and surfacing. But what about just staying put? How do they make those tiny little adjustments to hold a specific depth while they're moving? For that, they need something a little more fine-tuned. And the answer is hydroplanes. They're basically the submarine's wings or fins. It's the same idea as an airplane's wings, using air to create lift. These fins use the flow of water as the sub moves forward. By tilting them up or down, the pilot can make the sub gently climb or descend. They're literally flying it through the water to a precise depth. It's an amazing combination of the ballast tanks for the heavy lifting and these hydroplanes for the fine control. So our sub can survive the deep and it can navigate with grace. But everything we've talked about, the compressors, the hydroplanes, life support, all of it needs a huge amount of power. And that brings us to a brand new problem. How in the world do you run an engine in a place where there is absolutely no air? Well, for decades, the answer was a diesel-electric system. Submarines would run their diesel engines on the surface to charge up these massive batteries. Then they'd dive and run silently on that battery power. But you see the weakness, right? They had to keep coming up for air, which made them super vulnerable to being spotted. And then came the real game changer: nuclear power. A nuclear reactor creates an incredible amount of heat, which boils water, creates steam, and spins a turbine. It's a completely self-contained power plant. It doesn't need any oxygen at all. This means a nuclear sub can stay hidden for months, even years at a time. The only thing that limits them now is how much food they can carry. Okay, so we have a strong, endlessly powered, and maneuverable vessel. That's an incredible tool. But it's completely useless if it's blind. And in the absolute pitch black darkness of the deep ocean, the next great challenge is just being able to see. How do you navigate in a world without any light? Yeah, it's a critical question, isn't it? You can't just flip on the headlights. So how does a submarine avoid running into an underwater mountain or, detect other ships in the pitch black? The answer is sound. That's where sonar comes in. It stands for sound navigation and ranging, and it is, without a doubt, the submarine's most vital sense. It's this incredibly sophisticated system that lets the sub see using sound waves, basically painting a picture of a world that is otherwise totally invisible. The way it works is pretty clever. It sends out these pulses of sound. You might have heard them in movies, the pings, and then it just listens for the echoes to bounce back. By analyzing how long it takes for those echoes to return, the system can figure out the location, the distance, and even get a pretty good idea of what kind of object is out there in the dark. It's the submarine's eyes and its ears all rolled into one. And of course, for that classic view of the surface world, you've got the periscope. It's housed in that big structure on top that's called the sail, and it lets the crew take a look around without having to come all the way up. So we've covered the machine pretty well, but what about the people inside? This brings us to the final and maybe the most essential piece of the puzzle, life support. How do you keep a whole crew of people alive for weeks or even months, sealed up inside a steel tube? This is where the submarine goes from being just a vehicle to being a totally self-contained world. I mean, it literally manufactures its own air. Oxygen is created by stripping it from seawater using electricity. That's a process called electrolysis. Or it's generated from these special chemical canisters, sometimes called oxygen candles for emergencies. At the same time, systems called scrubbers are constantly pulling the crew's toxic carbon dioxide out of the air. And for water, massive desalination units just turn salty seawater into fresh drinking water. It's incredible. When you put it all together, all these systems create this tiny, artificial ecosystem. It's like a bubble of life, carefully managed and maintained deep beneath the waves. It's what allows humans to survive and even thrive in a place they were really never meant to go. So when you piece it all together, the unbelievable strength of the hull, the mastery of buoyancy, the airless power of the reactor, the ability to see with sound, you realize that a submarine is so much more than just a machine. It's a testament to human ingenuity. It's a self-sufficient world, a true master of the deep. Lurking below the waves, quietly performing its duties with dignified silence and infamous stealth. So the next time you look out at that vast, empty ocean, just take a second and remember what might be down there, listening from the darkness below,